Dot is a new fertility awareness-based method. Just like any other method of family planning, it's critical that Dot undergo a contraceptive efficacy study. If someone is considering using Dot or any other family planning method, they need to know how well it's likely to work for them, and that's what a contraceptive efficacy study can do.
A contraceptive efficacy study is a really technical and specific capability, and it's something that I don't think most developers would have in-house. So it was important to us to partner with someone who had experience and credibility in this space. Did work in the early days with their technologists to incorporate their research platform into the app, but in terms of the study itself, really we were very hands-off.
Historically, in conducting contraceptive efficacy studies, researchers have recruited and screened women into the study to be sure they were actually eligible to participate. Then they have applied what is called informed consent to be sure the woman understands that she's in a study and what that involves and that she agrees to do so. Subsequently, the study applies rather controlled clinical setting criteria with regular contact between the participants and study staff, routine pregnancy tests, and self-reported adherence to method use. Women are followed up for 13 cycles of use, and the data is analyzed at that point. The Dot study follows the guidelines that are well laid out in the literature for conducting contraceptive efficacy studies. It was simply adapted to the context of a fertility app.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest difference between the two types of studies are that we didn't have a face-to-face interaction with the participants, which is what you typically have in a study site, in a traditional study site. This also did give us opportunities to create new ways to assess pregnancy, and also using the mobile technology, we got real-time data collection and we were able to assess activities in real time rather than at a monthly basis. Not only did we have to kind of take into consideration the traditional recruitment and retention issues, but we had technology involved here, and a technology that people are kind of intimately aware of, a technology that sits in their pockets all day, every day. You need as many as you can get and can afford to keep in the study according to your budget. Really, there's calculations that we conduct to estimate the number of women that we want to retain over the 13 cycles. And this is really about counting all of those cycles in which women are at risk of becoming pregnant.
Fertility awareness-based methods attempt to identify all the days of a woman's menstrual cycle when she is potentially fertile. That is, the days that when she's likely to get pregnant if she has unprotected intercourse. If a study participant gets pregnant, it's really important to know whether the pregnancy occurred because the method was incorrect or because she had unprotected sex on a fertile day. In answering that question, I'd like to think about it from the perspective specifically of a contraceptive efficacy study for a fertility awareness-based method. And in that case, several studies that were conducted in the not too distant past actually didn't enroll people in the study until after they'd been using the method for up to 3 cycles. Because they wanted them to be sure they knew how to use the method before they actually entered the study. And that doesn't mimic the real world at all. So that was a real problem. It's really important to enter people very early, just when they start using the method. Another thing that I think is very important is that a number of studies don't try to measure on a prospective basis each cycle whether the person actually wants to continue avoiding pregnancy or not. It's really important to know on a cycle basis, prospectively, whether the woman wants to avoid pregnancy.
using the app to prevent pregnancy received a pop-up message in the app asking if they were interested in participating in the Dot study. Once screened and determined eligible, women went through an informed consent process and then were enrolled into the study.
I think one of the most interesting things about it, and certainly one of the challenges, is that you want to create as real-world a situation for participants as you possibly can. But at the same time, it's important for them to be able to provide the data that you need to actually conduct the study and get the kind of analysis and results that you need. So you're constantly trying to balance not intervening with collecting your data.
Yes, diversity definitely matters when conducting a contraceptive efficacy study, because you want the method to be applicable to women across different age groups, as well as ethnicity, education level, and relationship status.
It's important to know whether they're at risk for pregnancy, because you want to know whether they are at risk of the outcome that you are measuring. So how do we determine this? That's a really good question, and it's a difficult one. One of the things has to do with age. We limited the participants for our primary analysis to women between the ages of 18 and 35, because those are known to be prime ages for women to get pregnant. We also did not accept into the study women who had been using a hormonal method of contraception during the 3 months prior to study entry. And one of the reasons for that is because hormonal contraceptives sometimes have a residual effect on fertility, and we didn't want women to come in a subfertile status. Another thing has to do with postpartum and breastfeeding women, and similarly we screened out women whose fertility might have been lower because of breastfeeding or recent pregnancy. And finally, we wanted to be sure that women were in a sexual relationship with a male partner, so that in fact they would be reasonably expected to be at risk of pregnancy.
I also think that we're very interested in learning what participants are doing during their fertile time and what type of methods they are utilizing to manage these high-risk days.
But also, how well did they use it? What is their perception of it? What do they think about this app? Have they discussed it with their partners? How does it affect couple communication? What kind of partner support might there be? We're also very interested in women's motivation to avoid pregnancy. If there were cycles in the study in which a woman did not have intercourse, those cycles were eliminated from the analysis.
Really, the results were going to be published no matter what. Whatever they were shown to be, they were going to be published. So we had to have great confidence, and we did, that the outcome was going to be really good. But really, we didn't have any sort of control or input onto, what those results were going to be. And once the study was rolling, we had to just wait and see.
Need to keep in mind what are the standards for research around the questions that you're trying to ask. If you're trying to ask efficacy questions, consider the standard guidelines for research in that area and do your very best to adapt your research to those guidelines.
One of the biggest lessons that we've learned so far is that we've had to be agile and, develop a contingency plan throughout the study, whether it started from, the recruitment phase or implementation of the study. It's important that we can learn from our mistakes so that things can run more smoothly in the future.
USAID has a long history of supporting research in the fertility awareness-based method space. They recognize the importance of informed choice. They realize that there are people all over the world who prefer to use a fertility awareness-based method and are looking for ways to establish new approaches to help people do that.
Additionally, I think USAID sees the benefit of reaching women through their mobile technologies. And they see this as an opportunity, whether it's to simply track, whether it's for young women, simply tracking their periods over time and understanding how they interact with those mobile platforms, or using it as a prevention method, or even as a pregnancy planning tool. I think that USAID has an interest in developing this area of technology to move it forward as one of the methods and expanding the method mix in these developing countries.